Right. So let's get started. So again, very warm welcome to all of you. Sorry for the initial delay. I just had to change some settings so I can share my screen. Now I can see everyone's questions on the chat as you post them. Right. So can everybody just put a yes on the chat if they can see my screen? You should be able to see a white window. You should be able to see my mouse movements as well. Yes, yeah, all right. So let me I prepared some slides, a slide presentation. Yes, I hope you can see my slides. It says Java programming, right? So yeah, let's get started. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Sham Rial. I'm a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Computing at SLIIT. I thought I was actually contemplating what to put as my introduction. Now, since you guys are here to learn programming and you are possibly beginners to programming as well, I thought I would talk about how I started programming. So I also started programming as a school goer, right? When I was in the 8th grade, I learned a programming language called Pascal. That was my very first programming language. It was in the year 1999. Which is about 23 years ago, possibly before some of you were even born. And then today, I'm going to teach you some Java, right? So I learned Java in 2005 November, which was about 16 years ago. So possibly some of you might be around that age, which was right after my A-levels. So I did my A-levels in 2005 and then somewhere around May or June, if I remember correctly. And then in 2005 November, I got introduced to this programming language called Java. And then what did I do with Java? I have been teaching it to school students, undergraduates, professionals, somewhere since around 2006. So immediately after I learned Java in 2005, I started teaching it to others, right? So I started doing classes. And then I also started developing software using the Java programming language, also since around 2006. Used it as part of my industry employment. So I graduated in 2010 from the University of Moratu, and I started using Java as a programming language in my day-to-day job. So I was hired as a Java software engineer to begin with. And then I also started to teach as part of university curriculum. So I started teaching university students in the university since 2012. So I've been quite around with Java for a while, and actually seen how Java has developed from the olden days to the the modern language it is right now. So I'll so that's the introduction about myself. Now I would actually like to get to know you guys as well, right? My audience, right? Because it's quite important for me to know like what your level is, right? So I didn't prepare any material, or I didn't prepare any I didn't prepare a script for this workshop. I'm just going to do everything on the fly, right? So it's very important for me to understand what your current level is. So let me actually paste this link on the chat. So if you could just go to this link and just fill this out very quickly, then it will give me a very good understanding of what your level is, right? So it will take like maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Just fill out this form, and I will be able to see what level you are at, right? I'm not collecting any identifiable information. So I'm not collecting your name. I'm not collecting your email address or phone number or anything like that. So it's completely anonymous, right? So you don't have to provide any identifiable information, just some info about what's your current level of Java. So then I can actually customize it. I can customize my delivery. I can customize my examples to fit this audience. So just take 1 or 2 minutes and just fill that out. And I should be getting the responses on my Google Forms. So I can see live as you respond to this. So it's got just few questions, something like this. So which grade are you in? What's your medium of instruction, whether it's English, Sinhalese or Tamil? Or are you following the local or the London or the international syllabus? And just like a couple of questions about your, programming experience with Java. whether you have programming experience with other languages, and some demographic information, right? So yeah, just fill this in when you can. And while you fill that out, I will move on to the next slide. So what do you think? Is Java a difficult programming language? You could say yes or no on the chat window so that I can see your response. So if you finished, yeah, I can see there are a few responses coming in for the Google form. So I can see live as you fill the Google form here. So I can see there's one person in grade 10 to 11 being taught in English medium, local syllabus, and with no knowledge of Java, and having experience with some other programming language, right? So yeah, so keep them coming. So while that's going on, what do you think? You must have heard about Java, right? You must have heard about people mentioning Java in the context of information technology, programming, software development, software engineering, right? You must have seen, people talking about them in job applications, right? We require so many years of experience in Java, right? So what do you think? Is Java a difficult programming language? What's your feeling? So you can put that on the chat if you want to, or just ask yourself, what do you think? Is Java difficult programming language? And then another thought that I want you to kind of ponder on is that what's the most enjoyable way for beginners to grasp a new programming language or learn a new programming language? Now, this question applies to you, right? Because now you guys are possibly, new to programming, and you are learning programming for possibly the first time, or maybe this might be your second or third programming language, right? So when you are learning a new programming language, the approach is very, very important, right? How do you approach learning a new programming language? While that's going on, I can see some more responses coming in on the Google form. So it looks like we have 3 responses so far, some 8th graders and 9th graders, some 10th, 11th graders. We have 1 person English, Sinhalese medium, 2 people English medium, and most of you are actually beginners, right? So it actually makes it a little bit easier for me. Okay. Graphics is a really good way. Graphical programming, or what we call graphical user interfaces, is a really good way to learn a new programming language. So people have this concept that Java is difficult. Java is, it's cumbersome. It's jargon. Like, it's difficult to learn. You need to know maths. You need to know programming. You need to know object orientation. There's like a lot of misconception. But if you actually learn Java by using graphical interfaces, you will learn to love it, and you will actually learn to program it very easily, and you will feel that Java is actually very easy. Why? Because it's visual. You see the immediate correlation between, you click a button, something happens, right? You move the mouse, something happens. You type a key, something happens, right? So graphical user interfaces are very responsive, right? So you will see when I do some examples, it uses everyday layman language. You don't need to be a programmer, and it's field agnostic. You could be a biology student, you could be a math student, you could be an art student. It doesn't matter. You understand images, right? Graphics. So it's just like learning Hindi by watching a movie. It's one of the most enjoyable ways to learn programming. So even in future, if you're studying information technology, IT, software engineering, if you're finding it difficult to grasp a programming language, just switch to graphics and you will start enjoying the language, and then you can switch on to the core fundamentals. Yeah, so before we go on to some practical examples, a little bit of history about Java. So Java was created in 1991 by a person called James Gosling. So he's considered the father of Java. And of course, some less popular names, Patrick Norton, Chris Roth, and Ed Frank, and Mike Sheridan. But actually, James Gosling is considered the father of the Java programming language. And you can see how the Java logo transformed from 1996 to 2003. As you can see, this is a coffee cup, which is giving off some steam. So Java, the name Java is based on James Gosling's favorite coffee, right? It's Java coffee. And you can see Java version 1 came out in 1996. And through all these years now, we've actually reached, we actually at Java version 17 now. So as at 2018, this timeline stops at 2019, shows Java version 12, right? So Java is a very, very mature and popular programming language. Now, Java's popularity, I've just added some keywords here so that, if you see some of these, you will see that these are associated with Java. Right. So you might have heard or seen people, especially in job adverts or people applying for jobs, or, if you have an older brother or sister who's, studying to be a software engineer, actually working as a software engineer in the industry, they would be saying, okay, I work with Spring, or I work with Hibernate, or I work with Grails, or I work with Hadoop, or I use Tomcat, right? So all of these technologies are basically Java based. So Java has 4 flavors: Java Standard Edition, which runs on desktop machines; Java EE, which is the Enterprise Edition, which works on the the web browser, so you can have like really high performing websites. You have Java ME, which is the Mobile Edition, which basically runs on our mobile phones. And now of course it's Android. And Java Card, which runs on smart cards. Right. So Java is a language that could work on multiple platforms, not just the computer. It could work on the web. It could work on the mobile device. It could work on a smart card. It could work on a washing machine if you want to. If it can work on cars, it's actually called Android Auto, right? So you actually have Android powered cars, right? And all of this technology is basically based on Java, right? So yeah, I spent about 20 minutes explaining the importance of Java and actually getting the importance of how to actually grasp a programming language. Now actually let's get on to some practical. So the remaining 40 minutes I will be dedicating to showing you some practical examples on how to build beautiful user interfaces using Java. So I'm going to use this integrated programming environment, which is called NetBeans, right? So if I just go to the about here, you can see this is a software called NetBeans, used by not created. It was created by a company called NetBeans, but now they're acquired by the Apache Software Foundation, right? So this software basically it's sort of like Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint. It lets you create software applications using Java, right? So let me get started. So this is how you get started with NetBeans. You just go to File, New Project, get Java with Ant and Java application. So here you give a name for your application. I'm going to say Java Workshop because that's the workshop I'm doing right now. So just give a meaningful name here and click Finish, right? Now you will see this creates a new project here. So there was already an existing project, which I will just close. So you can see there's a new project here called Java Workshop because that's the name I gave, right? And then there's something here called the default package. I'm just going to right click here and say new JFrame form, right? So this is the starting point to a Java graphical application. So if you want to create a graphical application, this is sort of the starting point. You start by saying new JFrame form. And here, let me give a meaningful name again. Right, so always provide meaningful names. I'm going to say login form. So I have an example in my mind. I am going to create a login form. You guys know what a login form is, right? You log into everything. You log into Facebook, you log into Instagram, you log into your mobile. What does a login form have? Username and password, right? So I'm just going to create something like this. So you can see this is your graphical window, right? This is your graphical window. You can resize this if you want, right? And you will see there are 2 useful, like sort of toolbars or they're actually called IDE windows. So IDE windows here, so you can actually go and like display them from here. For example, if you accidentally close them, you can go and open them from here, window properties and window palette, right? So this palette and properties are very important for us because this has all the components, right? You can see here all the supported components are shown here. So without further ado, let me just drag a label and drag another label here, right? I can edit these very easily. I can say username, right? I can edit this very easily here. I can say password, right? And if I look carefully, you can see there's an element here called the text field, right? And there's another element here called a password field, right? You can drag them, resize them. You could do anything you want. And I can resize this. And then I could say, drag a button here, can rename this button to OK. And I can rename this button to clear, right? I could even have another button. So let's have 3 buttons. Let me resize this. 3 buttons. This one I could say close, right? And then I can resize this all the way here. Now, if I actually run this, so right click and say run file. So this is how you run your application. There, you have successfully built your first Java graphical application. Now, I actually started talking at 6:20, right? And I actually started creating this project in about 6:22. So actually, I've spent only 2 minutes while talking to build this. So if I wasn't talking, I would have actually built this in a couple of seconds, right? So it's very, very easy to actually build graphical applications like this using this NetBeans Java platform, right? So again, I don't want this text here, so let me edit this and clear this one out. Let me edit this and clear this one out, right? So you will see when I run this, I have built a simple login form with 3 buttons, OK, clear, and close, and with a username box, which I can type here, and a password box, which I can type here. Of course, the password is masked, right? Just a few seconds. Now, let me create another form. Now, this time, I'm going to create a form. I will call it main form, right? So you can see the login form is here. So it created another form here called the main form, right? So in this main form, I'm also going to use some components, right? So I could actually have a menu bar if I want, file, edit, and so on. I can have a menu, right? And I can add menu items into that, into like sub menu items, right? Like this. I can rename them into something meaningful, like close. This I can rename to open. This I can rename to select, edit. This I can say operations. Now, if I actually run this, so you can always run it and see how it looks like, right? See, it's very easy to add a menu, right? And there are so many other things I can add from here. I can add more labels, right? Labels are sort of the most popular because you have to name things, right? So I can say name, right? I can say age, I can say gender, right? I can put more text fields if I want. And for this one, I can put something like a spinner, right? Let me take a spinner here. Sometimes you have to struggle a little bit to position them. Right. It's fine. So name goes here, age goes here, and we'll have a couple of radio buttons for gender, which says male and female, right? And of course, we'll have some more buttons. It's called one button called save and one button called back. And then you can, of course, resize your window to your satisfaction, right? And if I run this, yeah, I have a window here where I can spin, I can select, right? So this is actually a very simple way of developing your graphical applications without writing code. Now, actually, did you write any code? No, you didn't write any code, but actually the application will write code in the background, right? So as you can see, when you develop this interface here, it automatically writes the code for you. Now you can go and edit this code if you want, right? But imagine writing all this from scratch. Now, if you had to develop this interface by writing code, you would actually spend about, I would say, a good 20-30 minutes writing these, adding these, positioning these, packing these, right? So all of these operations you will have to do manually. And imagine how much Java you would need to know to actually do this. So that's why I'm saying, when you are learning a programming language for the first time, you have to let the software do the hard work, and you can go and edit things as you want. So we'll come to the part where we are writing code. Okay, don't worry. So, so if you look at this, so I have created 2 forms here where I can quickly develop a graphical interface as I want. Now, let's go to the part where we actually write some code, right? We go to the part where we actually write some code. Now, the first thing you will see is if I run this application. So let me start by running the login form. Now, if I run this login form, you will see it's not perfect, right? There are some problems in this login form. First of all, when I open this, it opens on the side of the screen. It is not very good. It should technically open in the middle of the screen, right? And also, so that's one problem, right? It opens on the side of the screen, not in the middle of the screen. And then the second thing is it's missing a title, right? There's no title here. So it should have a title saying login form, right? That's missing. And then these buttons don't do anything, right? So it's a form, but it's inactive, it's dead, right? It's there, but it's not alive, it's not doing anything. So these buttons are supposed to do something, right? Okay, so this is where we will need to write code. So remember, by using this NetBeans and this graphical application builder, you can't avoid writing code. It will just do the hard part for you. The hard part is basically building this interface. It will make it very enjoyable and easy for you, and it will write the code. And what you have to do is now go and edit this code, right? Okay, so let me show you. First, I will show you how to make this appear in the middle of the screen, right? That's the first thing I will show you. So you can see there are 3 tabs here under the login form. So let me close the main form for just a second. In the login form, you can see there is source, design, and history, right? We go to source. If we go to design, we get our previous design, which we created here. If we go to source, we get the code. Now you can see something here called public login form. This is called in Java, it's called a constructor. Now I'm not going to teach you like, all the terms and, all the technical, keywords in Java. So I will just, touch on them as and when we require, right? So this is called a constructor. Inside this init components, we write one single command called set location relative to null. Now, when I was learning programming, when I was in the 8th grade, I had to learn a lot of commands like this. Now, what I can recommend for you guys is don't try to understand exactly what this means. Just understand what it does, right? Even now, even a 10 years or 15 years or 20 years seasoned programmer wouldn't know exactly what everything means, because it's pointless to know what exactly everything means. But what's important is you know exactly what everything does, right? You don't know how it does it in the background, but you know what it does. So what this command does is make the form appear in the middle of the screen. So you can write a comment here, appear in the middle of the screen. So I'm just writing this so that, this is just a note. This is just for me to know what this does and for you to know what this does, right? So set location relative to null is a command that, you could memorize or you could learn with experience. So at some point you don't need to memorize because you've used it so many times, and it makes the window appear in the middle of the screen like that, right? So now when you run this, it appears in the middle of the screen. So basically what you need to know is what are the commands, what each command does, not what each command is, what each command does, right? What's the operation that happens when you type in the particular command, and then where to put it. So Usually some commands go in this constructor. I will show you where certain exceptions are, right? So next one I'm going to put is set title. So set title, I will say hello world, right? And see what happens. When I run this, it says hello world here, right? You can see hello world here. So this is basically setting the form title as hello world, right? So these are, so setting, right here, setting the form title, right? So as you can see, this way of developing software speeds you up, right? Does the hard job for you and still gives you the opportunity to write code to do what matters, right? So you don't spend time on what's not important, you spend time on what's important, right? So you want this design and you want this form to work, right? So therefore, this IDE helps you focus on what's important, spend time on what's important, and without wasting time on writing boilerplate code. This is called boilerplate code to develop a simple graphical interface, right? There's a question. Can we use Visual Studio Code instead of NetBeans? Yes, you can, but then you will have to write all this code manually to build this simple design. That's where the IDE is special, right? So there are many IDEs. There's NetBeans. There's another one called IDEA, IntelliJ IDEA. There's another one called Eclipse. Now these IDEs, what they do is they save time for you by automating certain things. So what we did is we automated the graphical part, right? And we only have to write code for logic. Logic means things that should happen, right? So that's the only part where we need to write code. And that's why I like IDEs over regular text editors, because you don't have to waste time. Now, if you are completely okay with using Visual Studio Code, that's fine, but you'll have to write all this yourself, right? That's the only thing, right? You'll have to spend time writing all of this. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is, okay, so let me run this form, right? So now I have the title, now it appears in the middle of the screen. Now what I want to do is, if I type something here, and if I press the clear button, obviously what should happen? These two text boxes must be cleared, right? If I press clear, this should be cleared. Now, right now, nothing's happening because this is, of course, it's not active, it's not alive, right? So I'm going to make it come alive. So how do I do that? Again, if you are using Visual Studio Code, you will have to go and write the code here from the scratch on to make the button animated, right? But here in this IDE, it gives you a shortcut. Right click on this button. So you see, I want to animate this button, right? The clear button. Right click on this button, events, action, action performed. And it gives me a space to write code. What should happen when I click the clear button, right? So let me go again. Right click, just select the button, right click, event, action, action performed. And you can see now in here, whatever I write will happen when I click on the clear button, right? So again, it's a matter of knowing what the commands are, and these come to you with experience. So I will type it from my memory. With experience, of course, it will come to you as well. So whenever you want to find out what these commands are, you can always just go and search on Google and find out these commands. It's very easy, right? So the first command I want to happen is I want this text box to be cleared, right? I want this text box to be cleared. So what's the name of this text box? As you can see, the name of this text box is JTextField1. If I click on this, it changes to JPasswordField1, right? So all of these components have a name. All of these components have a name, right? So JTextField1, JPasswordField1, JLabel1, JLabel2, button1, JButton2, JButton3. They all follow a certain convention, right? So what I want is JTextField1 and JPasswordField1 to be cleared. So let me write the code for that. JTextField1 dot setText. So it's not completely unrelated. The command actually means something in English, right? JTextField1 is the text box. Set text blank means clear it, right? So the command actually follows a logical English, unambiguous meaning, right? Then the next one is J password field 1, set text again, blank. So that means when this button is clicked, I want these two to be blank, right? So now let me run the program. I'm going to type something here. I'm going to type something here, and I'm going to press the clear button. Success. Right? Now the button is working. It's animated and it's working, right? Next, we will do the close button, right? The close button, basically, when you press close, it should disappear, right? So let's do that. Again, you remember the sequence, select the button, right click, event, action, action performed, right? And here, as you can see, this is giving me a space to type the code here. J button 3 action performed, right? So J button 3 is this button, right? J button 3 action performed, event, action, action performed. And what I want is the form to disappear, right? So there are many commands that you can make for the form to disappear. I'm going to use the easiest one, system.exit 0, right? Again, as beginners, now when you have learned Java for like 5-6 years, of course you will know what these things mean. What does system mean? What does 0 mean? You will know all of those things. But at the beginning level, what's important is you are able to do something without having to memorize too many things, right? So who actually, like as a beginner, I would say, who cares what do these things actually mean? What you need to know is what this does. System.exit exits the program, right? That's what you need to know, right? So always remember, like, as a beginner, to do something, there is a set of things you need to know. As an intermediate user, there are things you need to know. As an expert, there are things you need to know. Now, if you are going to interview for a company as an expert, of course, you need to know these things. But at this point, what's important is that you are able to build stuff that works. And how the internal workings actually happen isn't really much of a concern, right? So let's run this, right? Now, what should happen when I press the close button? It should disappear. Yeah, gone, right? So this button is now working. This button is now working, right? Now I have a third button, which is the OK button, right? So the OK button is where I'm going to do some checking, right? I'm going to check whether the username and password is correct, right? So let's assume for a moment, I'll put this on the chat. Let's assume the correct username is ABC and the correct password is 123, right? So basically, I'm assuming, just for this example, not in the real world, of course, but just for this example, I'm going to assume the correct username is ABC and the correct password is 123, right? So again, what I want to happen is when this OK button is clicked, it should check whether the username and password is correct, right? So right click, event, action, action perform. Now you know the sequence. For anything to make it animated, to make it come alive, to give life to it, you just do event, action, action performed, and it gives you a space to type the code, right? So what do I need to do? I need to get this value. I need to get this value, right? So when I run this, you can see if I type ABC and 123 here, I need to get this value and I need to get this value, right? It's super easy to actually obtain these values. I will say string username jtextfield1 dot get text, right? So again, you will see that this follows a logical English meaning, right? jtextfield1 is this text box, right? Get the text and put it into username, right? That's what it means, right? Very simple, in very simple terms, right? String password j password field1 dot get password, right? Now, of course, you will see this is giving an error, right? It's underlined in red, so it's giving us a little error. That's because, of course, you know why. The password is not written in plain text, it's written as a mask, right? Because you can't see the actual characters, right? So through experience, I know that I have to enclose this in a new string like this. Again, don't worry about the underlying workings. The logic is that this is written in a masked form. So to convert it into a normal string, you just have to say new string, right? Okay. Now let's check if the username and password are correct. Now, some of you already know some programming languages. I can see I have about 10 responses on the form here. Yeah. So there are some people from, nobody from grade 12, 13. There are some grade 6 to 7 as well. English medium, Sinhalese medium. And some of you actually know some programming languages, right? Okay. Good. So let's see in Java how you compare the values, right? So if this is how you do it, username equals ABC. So you can see it looks very logical, right? And means one and the other both have to be true, right? Password equals 1, 2, 3, right? If username equals ABC and password equals 1, 2, 3, you do something else, right? So this means if my username and password are correct, I'm going to do something. And this means if my username and password are incorrect, I'm going to do something else, right? So what I want to happen is if my username and password are correct, I want this form to appear, right? I want this form to appear from here. So basically what should happen is if I run this, if I put the correct username and password, I want, when I click OK, I want this form to go and I want this form to come to the foreground, right? So let me show you. The code is very easy. This dot dispose, right? New main form set visible true. So you see the code is actually really logical and really simple. This dot dispose means dispose the current form. That's the login form. And new main form. What is main form? This guy, right? New main form dot set visible true. What does that mean? Set visible true. That means make it visible, make it appear, right? Now let's see whether that works, right? If my username is ABC and if my password is 1, 2, 3, let's put a wrong password just for a moment. I'm going to put a wrong password. And if I click OK, nothing happens, right? But if I put the correct password, 1, 2, 3, this appears now, right? So my code is working. So I can go from one window to another. Now, if my username and password are incorrect, I want to show an error message. And how I show error message is there's a command called joptionpane dot show message dialog. And I will use the first command as null. Again, don't worry about what null means. This is what we need to worry about. Incorrect login, right? So you can give an error message here, right? So let me just quickly run this and show you. Right. So if I put the correct username and password ABC123, this happens as I expect. If I run this again, if I put ABC and an incorrect password, now it says incorrect login, right? So I created some very basic functionality using Java and NetBeans within under maybe 15 to 20 minutes, right? While explaining, right? So actually, if I wasn't explaining, I could have developed this under 5 minutes, right? Because I didn't spend time writing code for this GUI because of the NetBeans, right? Because I spend time on what is important, that is making the application work, making the logic work. I spend time on what's important and I save time on what's unimportant, right? So that's how you basically increase your productivity, right? So yeah, all three buttons are now working. One interface is complete, right? One interface is complete. Now, since I have shown you how to do this, let me quickly develop the other interface as well, right? So this one, of course, there's a name box here. There's an age, which is a spinner. So I will just resize this spinner a little bit. And there's a logical group here. And then, yeah, again, I can go to the source here. I can say set title. So I'm just doing the same thing that I did in the previous one. Main form, set location relative to null. And then for this button, I can give action performed, and I can say this dot dispose, right? New login form, set visible true, right? So you understood what I did here. It's very simple. When I go to this button, it will dispose the current form and send it back to the login, right? So now let's see whether the full cycle works, right? Okay, so this is my login form. I'm first going to use an incorrect username and password, right? Clear button works. Again, I'll use an incorrect username and password. Close also works, right? So let me run the application again, right? Now I will use the correct username and password, right? Sends it to the next one, right? And now if I say back, sends it back to the login, right? So you see, in under less than 20 minutes, I was able to develop a complete cycle involving 2 interfaces, right? Now, I think our time limit is until 7 p.m. So I'm going to use the remaining time to show you some pre-built examples on what you can do once you learn this technology, right? Once you learn this technology, right? So it's a matter of knowing what to build, knowing these components, and you can use any of these components as you want, right? And then knowing what to write, what is the command, and where you should write it, right? So it's a matter of knowing that. So as long as you know what the command is and you know where to put it, then basically you can create a beautiful graphical application using Java, right? So let me show you some examples. Let me open a recent project that I created for another workshop. So this was actually a 5-hour workshop. So I was able to develop everything one by one and actually let the class do it. I will do it, the class will do it. So it was like a demonstration plus show and tell session. So it was like a 5-hour workshop. So these are like some examples that I developed during those 5 hours with the class. So I actually let them develop live as well. So as I was doing it, they were doing it as well. So so this is a very simple example on mouse movement. So you can see, so you can animate a button this way by when the mouse goes over, it becomes red, and when the mouse comes out, it becomes gray again. So again, the logic is super simple. You have a button, right? You just simply drag a button from here, right click event, not action performed. Mouse entered and mouse exited, right? So if you want to do something when the mouse moves on top of the button and come out, what you do is you right click the button, event, mouse entered and mouse exited. So you can see mouse entered. What happens when mouse entered? It sets the background to red. So you can see Java is very close to English, right? So you can logically understand what's happening. And J button 1, mouse exited. That means when the mouse goes out, it becomes gray, right? So that's what happens when you run, right? Now, of course, this part I had to write, but dragging the button, I didn't have to write any code. I just had to drag the button, right? Then here's another application that I built. It's sort of like a notepad, right? So it's just like the Windows notepad, right? So so this is Windows notepad, right? So I tried to develop some features of the Windows notepad using a Java notepad, right? So you can see I can type things like hello world, good morning, the quick brown fox said hello to you, something like that, right? And you can see as and when I type, it counts the number of characters, number of words, number of characters without spaces, right? Now this is all happening using Java code, right? So this is like Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word counts how many characters your text is, right? And how many words, how many characters without spaces. And also I implemented some features like, find, right? So it finds the word hello. Let's do a find again for the same word hello. Yeah, it finds hello again. Let's go back here and let's look for the word morning. It finds the word morning, right? You can actually replace as well. Let's say I can replace hello with howdy. See, it does. So I've built some Microsoft Word like features into this one, right? And of course I can save this. I can give a file name. I can say hello.txt saved, right? Let's see where it got saved. It should have probably got saved somewhere here. Aha, hello.txt here, see? So I can save a file, right? I can open a file as well. Let's see, I will delete this whole thing and I will say open file, hello.txt, open, right? So I can open the file. So kind of like Microsoft Word, right? I can save, open, exit. Are you sure? It asks me, are you sure? If I say no, it will stay. If I say exit, are you sure? It will exit, right? So I built this again using the palette and the properties, right? So let me just, let me just move this here and I'll move the palette on top of that, right? Okay. So you can actually, rearrange this as you want. So as you can see, I just built this using the palette and the properties, right? So this is a menu bar. These are menu items. It's a menu bar, menu items, right? This is a text area. See, this is a text area, right? These are labels. See, JLabel 1, JLabel chars, I have renamed it, JLabel 2, JLabel 5, right? So basically, these are just simple components coming from here. And I have also written some code. You can identify this now, right? Set location relative to null, right? JText area 1, set line wrap. Set line wrap means when you start typing from right to left, once you reach the right end, it comes back to the left. That's called line wrap, right? In Notepad also, I think you have the same feature. In Windows Notepad, you have word wrap, right? So that's what I did. Then this is to write to a file. This is to write to a file with saving. This is to actually count the number of characters. So basically this part, counting characters, words. So let me just run this and show again. So let's see, if I just type one letter, it shows one character, one word, right? If I type 2, it shows 2 characters, 1 word. If I type a space and another word, now it says 4 characters and 2 words because now there's a space here, right? So this logic I have implemented here. So I'm happy to share this code with you as well. So you can actually look at these applications and then you can take code from it, right? Now, remember, when you are a programmer, now ask this from anyone. If you have older brothers or sisters or fathers, mothers who work in the software industry, you don't write code from scratch, right? I wrote code from scratch because I wanted to show you some examples, right? Nobody writes code from scratch, right? You take code from examples built by others. So you go search on the internet. There are websites like Stack Overflow. There are websites like, Java Ranch, right? Tutorials Point, Geeks for Geeks, right? So many websites. Stack Overflow is the most popular one. People go there, find examples written by other people, copy and paste it and change it the way they want, right? So, but to do that, you of course need to understand coding. You need to understand what you are copy pasting and changing, right? So usually people learn by looking at examples because you can't really learn everything from a class. You can't learn everything from a friend. You can't learn everything from a video. So you learn by taking code from examples, right? So this is for the exit. This is for the new. This is for the open, save. So you can see I've written code for every possible action. Here's another one I can show you. This is a data entry form, right? This is a data entry form which I developed. So it has few text boxes and a spinner and a results box, right? So let me write my name. Let me write my national ID number. So this is my national ID number according to the old format. And if I say save, now it actually calculates from this national ID, it calculates my birth year. It identifies whether I'm a male or female and actually finds out what day of the year I was born. It's a Tuesday, 11th of February, 1986, right? So if I use my mother's 545-992-555, right? 1954, female, born on Thursday, 8th of April. So it's a simple calculation to extract the birth year, whether you are male or female, and the exact date you were born in the year, right? And the code is right here. See, save button, right? Event, action, action performed. See, this is the code. So the code is basically to calculate your birth year, male or female, and whether which day of the year you were born, right? And I'll show you some examples very quickly before we wind down. So I think we have about 1 or 2 minutes. So this is another example where I have added an image, right? So username, password box, right, with image. And here's another one, right? So when you click on this, it automatically loads these fields, right? So when I click on John, it shows John's details. When I click on Alice, it shows Alice's details. When I click on Jane, it shows Jane's details. I can even edit them. Now, Alice, I can change to Allison. I can say save. Now it says Allison, right? Jane, I can change to Jenny, right? I can even change the age. Let's make Jenny younger, 35, right? Now, if I come back to Jenny, now it says Jenny 35. So I can save things, I can load things, I can create new entries if I want. I'll say Johnny, right? It creates a new entry called Johnny now, right? And you can even delete things, right? So all this functionality is inside this code. So I will share this so you can actually get an idea from this as well. And there's some other samples as well. Here's one more sample which I would like to show you. So you could do even animations like this, right? What I have done is I have simulated a simple sunset. So what happens in a sunset? You have the sun and it moves across the sky and the color changes as you move across the sky. So it's very simple, right? All you need to draw is a circle and change the position of the circle continuously while changing its color, and you redraw it, right? So these are little things you can do with code, and this is the basis of game programming, right? So games are actually built like this. Games are simply moving objects in a screen, right? That's a game, right? So this is a very, very simple basis for a game, right? And the code again is here, right? It looks very complex, but actually at some point, once you read this and get familiar, you will understand that it's actually very easy, right? So that's it for today. And let me quickly go to my last slide. So for further learning, I have put some information for you. Now, with the information that I just showed you, you could build an entire, graphical user interface set for a management information system. All you need to do is keep extending the design that I gave you. 3 windows, 4 windows, 5 windows, more buttons, more text boxes, right? You have to just keep adding and linking them together, right? And you can build with using my examples, the examples that I will share with you. You can build a number calculator, grade calculator, student mark entering system, point of sale system, inventory control system. All these will be like within a matter of few hours to a few days, you can build these things, right? And then with a little self-learning, you can build something like a chat application where one window opens in another place and you can actually chat with 2 people. You can build a web browser, a file explorer, and a little game, right? So those are things that you can build upon. Yep, that's all for today. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope that you guys will have a very good competition, CodeFest 2021, and you will build some wonderful software for our judges to see, and will earn you some wonderful prizes. So have a wonderful night, stay safe, and thank you very much.